Hey, this is Coach T. This is week 5 of my C Sharp coding devlog. I don't know what happened, but I skipped number 4. I didn't skip the week, I just literally skipped the number when titling them. It is the crack of dawn morning here on Sunday because we've got kind of a busy day ahead of us. So I wanted to get the video log in, that way it didn't get lost in the wash. So this week, there's been a lot of things that I did. It was a very busy week. We had in laws in from out of town, which was a lot of fun. We took my daughter to her first movie, my oldest daughter to her first movie. We did a lot of coding. I did a lot of collaboration with other people that have reached out through some of the Python videos that I've begun uploading, asking for help, or through Reddit posts that I've made asking for some basic coaching. So I've been doing a lot of that, working a lot with Python this week. But I did not neglect C Sharp. In fact, I made a lot of strides into the beginnings of object-oriented programming with C Sharp, and I actually started to have a lot of fun with it. So in this devlog, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how the week went, some of the things that I'm learning, some of the things that I struggled with, and I'm going to show off 2 projects that I made this week in C Sharp. One of them was on my own, which is here on the screen, tic-tac-toe. We'll get to that in a second. And then I'll also show you my solution to the boss battle from R.B. Whitaker's The Player's Guide to C Sharp, or the C Sharp Player's Guide. I did the first boss battle, which kind of ends, it's the culminating project for the end of, not linear programming. What is the word for that? It's not functional programming. Basically just top-down, your traditional procedural programming. That's what it is, procedural programming. So now I'm into the OOP parts of that book. I'm also into the OOP parts of the Udemy course that I showed off last week. And we're cooking. So just a little bit of housekeeping. I'm still doing these on Sundays. That's the goal. At some point, I'm probably going to shift to Saturdays just because Sundays seem to be really packed. But I'm not going to be doing that until the school year starts again. Because we have family obligations on Sundays, it might be a little bit tricky, and I really don't want to do this on a weeknight when everything is unpredictable. So I'll probably switch to Saturday mornings at some point. Also, you're likely to see on Tuesday mornings, EST, I'll be putting out another Python video every week for the foreseeable future. The whole video course, I don't want to call it that. It's a sequence of beginner videos called the Quick Code videos. Those are going over really elementary brass tacks syntax, or how to do one thing at a time. I'm trying really hard to keep the videos at like 8 minutes or less, but I'm not good at it. It seems to be taking closer to 10 to 12. If you're learning Python, you're an adult learner like me, maybe that's why you ended up here, you want to learn to code. I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm a teacher, and I learn best when I'm teaching. It might seem a little bit strange, but what it means is the theory in the back of my head, I have to express it, I have to explain it in a way that's understandable, comprehensible for somebody else who knows less, and that really makes me composite my knowledge into something that's long term and is applicable. And it's a learning method that I really, really enjoy. So while I acknowledge I am not the right person to learn from if you are an intermediate learner like myself, or you're advanced, I'm not making content that's designed for you. I'm making content for other adult learners like myself who are either trying to extend their skills over into doing something new to empower what they're doing at work, or to build new stuff, or maybe they're really, really itching for a career change and they're struggling with some of the really brass tacks, first start rough rocks climbing out of the water to start coding. That's the kind of person that I want to help. And maybe adolescents too. If you're an adolescent, you're a teenager, and for some reason you're watching this coding devlog, that's odd. This is not the right place for you. Those quick code videos might help you if you're struggling to understand a textbook or a video course that is perhaps more advanced because they're assuming more prior knowledge. I assume nothing. I start at basic syntax. We start at variable assignation, stuff like that, assignment. So I kind of rebranded my channel a little bit this week. You can see I've got a new logo up here. It's the Coach T logo. That's what I'm going to call myself from now on. I'm a coach in real life, so it makes sense, and I thought it was a cool looking logo. It's inspired a little bit by the C++ logo and some other coding logos that I looked at, and I had fun making it. The other thing that I did this week that is not germane to C Sharp, but whatever, it's a video devlog of what the heck I'm up to, is I recorded an 11 or 12 video series on Affinity Publisher 2, which started from a conversation with my mom, who was visiting from out of town this week. And she's putting together a couple of different book projects, and she had never heard of the software. So I've kind of applied what I've been doing here with the quick code stuff with the video diaries, and I put together this very beginner series on how to A, make graphics like this, and B, make book spreads, which is something I have a lot of experience in. So that'll be coming out in October, I think. It'll be the same thing, one video a week, really practical, one focus. Anyway, that's enough of the non-C# stuff. I just wanted to, I guess, advertise that for anybody who might be interested in book design, but for some reason watching a C# video. Anyway, so I really had fun with the multi-dimensional arrays, the two-dimensional arrays. Once I got over my initial intimidation of them, I was like, oh my goodness, this could solve so many problems. Then I went to Python, and I discovered it's a lot harder to do them in Python than it is in C#. So I went back to C#, and I was like, let's see if we can get the grid working for tic-tac-toe, which is this right here, this string array. I just wanted to see, can I get it to print? And I thought I would be able to because I had done something similar at that point. But then I wanted to see, okay, what if I give you a number to choose from? Can I take that number and replace the number with an X or an O, depending on whose player's turn it is, which is governed by this variable here? And then as I started to figure that out, I was like, okay, how would I check to overwrite this and print a new clean version of the board every turn? And then how do I begin to detect whether or not somebody has won? So I had set out this really complicated system for myself. It feels complicated to me because I'm learning. I realize this is nowhere near production complicated, but it took me about 3 hours, I think, starting from just working myself through the pseudocode. And you can see I chose to go with a switch statement rather than an else if, because I knew there were going to be a lot of different cases. So in this case, what I'm doing is, if you're choosing one, square one up here, right? Once it takes your input, then, excuse me, if you choose one and it's not equal to X or it's not equal to O, i.e. it's already filled in, then, and I could probably do that more simply now that I look at it. It's been a couple days since I looked at the code. Then you input the user symbol. So there's one of those for each individual square. And there's also one for the default, like, oh, that just doesn't work. Input not recognized. And I put in an override as well, so it's an if-else within the case statement, and basically if that's already an invalid square, then you can't take it. That was one of the last things that I added to prevent cheating, right? Overriding somebody's square accidentally. So I really tried to think about, what do you need in order to make tic-tac-toe function in a fun way that's really quick to play and doesn't waste a lot of time. I didn't really want to bother with ASCII graphics and making it some big pretty grid. I just kind of like the straight up 3x3 grid. And then here's my check victory conditions. This could be done with object-oriented programming. I'm starting to kind of see the matrix, as it were, of how I might put this together with classes or even like enumeration, stuff like that. But it worked for procedural programming, you know. So basically, if I0 and then I1 and then I2, so that allows you to track any of the individual rows. If all of them are X, player X wins. Or if all of them are O's, same thing. If any of all three squares within the row is an O, then player O wins. And then it just flips the location of the index, the I. And so it goes, okay, if this column is all X's, then player X wins. I had done this a different way, and it was working okay, but I ran into some logical doofiness that was really, it's not C#. It was my failure to predict for how it might misread things. And that led to me kind of breaking this out into these 4 conditional statements. So this is if X on the rows, this is if X or the win on the columns. And then I did 4 more conditional statements in a different tree, and this is checking to see for the diagonal wins. There's 8 win conditions, either a row or a column or diagonal A or diagonal B for each player times 2 basically. So that gives you 8 win conditions to check for. I think within the game loop itself, if I scroll way back up, sorry, I don't want to give it any motion sickness. Those are a couple functions, checking victory functions. The game loop itself is only here, and I could pack more of this away into functions, I think, to get a cleaner look, but I find this much more readable in my current learning state, so it's good enough for now. It works, it runs, and I'll run it here in a second and show you. But basically, here's how I'm checking the turn, and then here's how we're telling. Here is the actual updating of the screen. I kind of borrowed the Pygame logic that I was playing with a couple months ago. And then here is the do and the switch to figure out what to override, and then I check to see if the game is over. Now, I could do that, I think, with I could do this more cleverly. I just haven't sorted out exactly how I'd iron this out so that I'm only checking if enough turns have moved to save a little bit of computational power maybe, or I guess maybe if a player puts a square in a particular place. It just seems like it's such a light game, it might not be worth sweating over. And then if the game is over, false, and if not, we move the game turn on by 1. I learned a lot doing this. I learned a whole lot about overriding arrays, about predicting user errors. I learned a lot about, where exactly do I put this, because this game turn thing really threw me off a couple times. I had it in the wrong location and it would bubble up and cause issues that were unexpected. So I'll run it real quick. Just got to build a solution. Coffee break. All right. So current turn is 1. Current player is X. And you want to input. Let's see. Can I make this bigger? No, I cannot make this bigger. Whoa. Wait. There we go. Okay. All right. So current turn is 1. I want to input an available number. So I'm going to go with 5. It's my opening gambit. You can see it overrides to X. Nice and simple. And now it moves on to player O. Player O is going to go to square 1. So now we have an X and an O, and we're back onto an odd turn. So that means that we're back to player X. Player X is going to go to 6. Now player O is going to have to go to 3. Oh, player O made a mistake. Player X is going to go to 4. Player X wins. Very simple. Not very pretty, but functional and fun. So this is a great project. I learned a whole bunch doing this. And I know it could definitely be better, but I was pretty proud of myself. I went from the ground up with just my notebook. I haven't really talked about how I take notes, but I think I want to do that at some point because it was the subject of a great deal of talk in our school building last year about how we want kids to take notes. So I very consciously have been spending a lot of time taking notes in that method to improve my understanding of it and also to make sure that it's a good learning method. And it is. So I didn't use no AI, no Gemini, no Copilot, nothing like that, only referring back to my notebook. And once in a while, I would bounce onto the Microsoft C# documentation if I needed to check exactly how to phrase something like this thing, whatever this logical inline statement is, logical inline conditional or whatever you call it. I forget the syntax on this, but I know it exists, so I just go looking for it on the learn.microsoft, or the Microsoft C# documentation, rather. But other than that, I had a lot of fun. Writing the 2 functions was great. I really enjoy writing functions now. I'm starting to enjoy writing them in classes as well. I've designed a couple classes that were neat. So that's it for Tic-Tac-Toe, and then I'll just very briefly here show off the boss battle, Hunting the Manticore, because this project was a monster. It took me about 2 hours from start to finish. And what I had to do is basically, it's a very interactive version of the high-low game. If you've done the high-low game, basically, I guess, and I take a number, I don't tell you the number, and you got to guess, 1 to 100, and then I tell you too high, too low, too high, too low, except in this case, we have a little bit of a narrative, which is that the Manticore is a flying airship, and it's attacking the city of Consulas, I think. And so I only have 15 turns to guess the location of the manticore and then deal enough damage to it. So we have an RPG mechanic to destroy that ship before it destroys the city. And all player one does is choose a number, 1 to 100. Very easy to turn that into a random generator. And I even played with the idea of making it shift in a random direction, but I thought that might be too hard. Not too hard for me, but too hard to actually play. So it would have to be something like it shifts in a random direction, and then it doesn't move again unless it gets hit. That would be how I would design that as a game designer. I'm not a game designer, but that's how I would do the design. So I have a bunch of variables that start off from the top. I would rather bury these in a settings file, but whatever, I don't know how to do it yet. And then I've got my game loop. So this is mostly working on some functions. That's the whole game loop right there. Could be boiled down a little bit more, but that's okay. So player one runs a setup function, and that just returns where are you? These are a little bit out of order. It returns an integer, and the integer is the manticore range. How far am I supposed to guess? And then after that, it only does that while the manticore range is 0. Then it will start with player 2 turn every single time. And what that does is it spits out a report about the current stats of the city, the current stats of the manticore, and the weapon that the city is wielding, depending on the turn number, deals a different amount of damage. Either 3 or 5 or 15, depending on whether it's divisible by 3, 5, or both 3 and 5. And then the game round advances. And then I do a game over check. I think the way that I ought to do this is before I run the game over check, I ought to see if either the manticore or the city is at 0 health. And I think let's double check, because again, I haven't looked at this in a couple days. Probably easier just to collapse these. End game check. Okay, so yeah, if the city health, so it's pretty efficient. If the city health is 0, then do this. Otherwise, and it returns true. If the manticore health is 0, then it returns false. And if it returns false, I believe it kills the game loop. Yep. So that's how you win the game. The other thing is I'm using console coloring now to make it look a little bit prettier. So let's run this bad boy. Oh, there are build errors. What do you mean there's build errors? There weren't the other day. Could not find the part of the path. I don't even know what that means. All right, well, let's go into... let's just play it. Yeah. Okay, it worked. So we're going to put the range at 50. And here we've got console color. Let me blow it up a little bit for you. Console color. Okay, enter. Press any key to clear the screen. Uh-oh, that's not promising. There, okay, round 1. So we've got city, 15 health. We've got manticore, 10 out of 10 health. Cannon is expected to deal a normal blast of 1. Enter the desired range. We'll put the range in at 45. It fell short. So this is the high-low game functioning within the other game. And again, 2 is not divisible. Round 2 is not divisible by 3 or 5. So therefore, it's doing 1 damage. Okay, so it fell short. So I'm going to go 47. Whoops. 47. Okay. It fell short, and now I'm expected to deal Fire Blast. Damage 3. That should be a new line. I just noticed that. I hadn't noticed that before. New range 50. Okay. Now the manticore has taken 3 damage. Direct hit. So we have 12. We're on round 3, so we've already subtracted. We're on round 4, so we've lost 3 health. Manticore's also lost 3 health, and now I can just hammer away at it. Lightning Blast. 6 out of 10 and 50, and there we go. The manticore is destroyed. The city of Consolis stands victorious for now. Player 2 wins. Play again. Yes, and it just reboots the game. So that is my culminating boss battle project from the Player's Handbook to C# by R.B. Whitaker. I had a lot of fun building this. I definitely got a little bit aggravated trying to work with the console color stuff, just because it's tricky. You have to reset it at just the right point, or else it looks super weird. But that's it. I'm into object-oriented programming. I've written a couple classes. I've written a couple class methods. I'm starting to understand constructors. And I don't have the file on this particular terminal, but I did use a class to build a football team for a really rudimentary text-based game that is kind of it's a side version of a Python text-based football game that I've been building for the last couple days. And what I wanted to do is just practice C# classes. So it asks you during the constructor phase, it asks you to input player names, and then it saves those names to an array where the player position is predictable. That way I can access them for some methods that are like pass the ball, rush the ball, punt the ball. So roster index 0 is always the quarterback, roster index 1 is always the running back, and the roster index 2 is the kicker. So that way I can just say, whatever the team that I've called up, like Buffalo Bills dot roster 0 is always Josh Allen. If a player inputs somebody else, like Miami Dolphins dot roster 0, they get Tua Tagovailoa if they type his name in correctly, and so forth. So you can kind of like do it's very simple. There's no, at this point there's no math or anything involved. It's just void methods printing to the console saying, oh, Josh threw the ball, oh, Tyler Bass kicked the ball wide right, that kind of thing. So simple. It's been a lot of fun, but we are traveling next week, so I don't know how much more progress I'm going to be making as regards object-oriented programming. I may be taking a little bit of a break, so I'm looking forward to today, this afternoon, when I've got a little bit of time open, and then tomorrow afternoon, and really just hammering in, getting that class practice out, getting comfortable writing methods to do things like geometrical functions, geometrical calculations, so that when I come back from our trip, I am ready to start whatever project it is that either Christina on Udemy or R.B. Whitaker or whatever I come up with in my own mind to really start using classes, because I am having a blast. So that's it for my 6th Dev Diary check-in. There'll be another one hopefully next Sunday, although it will probably be pretty skinny due to the travel. And check back this week for the Python video and a bunch of things to look forward to. All right, I'm out of here.